Thanks, Cynthia. This is the Governance Committee of March 28th, calling the meeting to order at 4:02. Cynthia, was there any public comment submitted?
No public comment submitted.
No public comment. All right, we'll move on to the minutes from our last meeting, February 28th. Those are distributed in your packet by Cynthia. I give people a moment to review those and refresh your memory. Are there any corrections to the minutes as distributed? There are no
Want a motion
corrections.
to approve?
Yes, I'll make the motion. Betsy, you want a second?
I'll second it.
Perfect. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
I should abstain, Frank.
Okay, thank you, Steve. That's right. Next on the item is the recommendation to the Board of Directors on proposed bylaw changes. And this has been on our agenda for some time. And I'm delighted to have Steve part of this because I always look to him as our bylaw person too, to provide some helpful perspective on this. And Diana, I think some of these things were things that we talked about during when you were president. So I'm glad that we've got everybody together. I really appreciate it. Now, timing wise, I think we wanted to review these. Is this correct, Cynthia? We want to get it in the packet for the meeting, our board meeting that's coming up. So that's sort of the deadline why we want to make sure that we review these today. So this is our last chance at this round of getting them into the board meeting. So maybe it's easier if you're in your packet, let's just go down to the bylaws, and you should be able to see there's a yellow highlighted section that was very helpful, Cynthia. And I think a lot of the highlights were shifting of the numbering, but there were some additions and a strikeout.
Can you put those on the screen, Frank?
Actually, I'm gonna have
Somebody-
I can,
need
Betsy, give me a
Cynthia.
second. Yep.
Yeah, I have it on as was that page 11 of the bylaws.
It'll just take me a couple minutes.
Sure, I can start, framing it, just reminding people of the discussion here to load it up is that, last year, I think starting last year, we really talked about the making sure that the bylaws were consistent with our actual practice. And I think one of the comments was that the staff, especially the executive director, plays a significant role in supporting some of the officer positions. And we wanted that reflected in these bylaws. So thank you. That's perfect. Under the president in section 8, we're adding, or the recommendation here is to add under the first one, I'll just read the whole thing out. Prepare an agenda for all, this is under the president, prepare an agenda for all regular and special, and special meetings, the board of directors and membership in the case of absence or vacancy in the office of the partnership's executive directors. So I think it's acknowledging that the executive director produces a lot of that, but in the case of the absence of that position, that's vacant, that the president will take on that role. The next item on E, I think this was the first split where we had the president not serve also as the chair of the governance committee. And as we got into it, we realized that the intertwined nature of what happens on governance and what the president needs to be involved in, it made sense to add the president position to the governance committee formally. And so the next letter below that F sort of closes that loop. So I've got several current and former presidents serving today. Any thoughts on that, those distinctions of what the role of the president is, what we're recommending here?
Just, Frank, as a point of information, just as a reminder, so these were reviewed by our attorney, John Sakaro, and he tweaked them with the intent that the committee had.
Okay, great, thank you.
Frank,
Yes,
was there any discussion of having the president serve as chair of the governance committee?
There has been conversation, Kyle. I think we talked about it early on when this first came up, that it was okay to split out. And so it's sort of being silent on it here, I guess. We're not saying that the president shall be also serve as the chair. It's just saying being a member.
So that means that the chair could serve, the president could serve as chair of the governance committee. Nothing prevents that. True?
That's correct.
Okay.
No,
Hey
I
everyone,
read
sorry
it.
to be a little late. I do want to, Steve raised an interesting thought in my mind. The executive committee is chaired by the president, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
So how closely are we aligned with the executive committee by way of these edits? Or more closely aligned with the executive committee? Are we creating any redundancy or unnecessary nuances between the two committees?
Sean, I would respond by saying that the governance committee meets on a regular basis.
Mhm.
The executive committee has no schedule to meet. It meets on an as-needed basis. And months and months can go by where the executive committee doesn't meet.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I don't think it's a problem that the president serves on both committees, that the president could, in fact, chair the governance committee if the governance committee nominated and elected the president of the partnership to be the chair of the governance committee.
That's great news, Steve. It is just procedurally, does it create any conflicts if the president is chairing a meeting? But then decision needs to go through exec committee that president also happens to chair. Does it create any conflict in having that double authority before it goes to the board?
In response, I would say no, for two reasons. Number one, you could ask or raise the same question by virtue of the fact that the president is a member of the governance committee and is not the chair of the governance committee. Number two, if the president felt that there was any conflict, and I'm not sure I can envision the situation where that would be the case, the president could recuse himself or herself from voting either at the governance committee level or at the executive committee level.
Also, the president only has one vote on either of those committees. So they can't control, they can, I suppose, verbally, but they can't by vote control either one of those committees.
Yeah, I wouldn't have saw that as a problem when Steve was president, but Kyle's a bit pushy.
What about me?
But Diane, I was gonna leave you out of it. You're,
No, I can see the direction this is all headed, Sean. I'm fine with that.
I like the, the flexibility of it. Because it's another committee to chair. And I think, it's great that if the president has been on governance and wants to continue in that role of chairing it or whatever, I think that's great. But I think it's nice to have the flexibility of it being a person that's maybe been a member before and knows more about what the committee does if the president comes in without being on the governance before. I just think it leaves it open to either. I just think it's a nice option to have.
I also think it's important that the president of the association or the group knows what's going on in every aspect of the partnership. So whether he or she is chair of a group or just a member, I think it's important that they be a part of it and hear the discussion and why certain decisions are made by those committees.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do like having the president as a member of governance.
And I like them when they're pushy, like Kyle.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have your involvement, Kyle, and
Yes, we
you
are,
want to
yeah.
be on this committee and take such an active role and be an active participant in its meetings. You're setting a great example for future presidents too. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Pleasure.
If we move on to the next section, actually is section 10. Under the secretary, again, this is making it consistent with our practice. Actually, Sean, I think we did something similar for the treasurer last year, or we tried to make this distinction either last year or the year before. So we have, I'll just read it out. The secretary shall be the custodian of all records and documents of the partnership, together with such other directors or staff designated by the board. The secretary may be required to provide general oversight of employee and agents of the partnership who shall, and then it goes on to list the activities. It was, in other words, the way it was written before, it sounded like a board member, the secretary of the board, was performing all these duties. And of course, we know we rely heavily upon our staff to set things up. And we wanted to make sure that that was clear here in our bylaws. Any other comments or thoughts about that? Cynthia, did John have any? That doesn't look like that was edited that much.
No, he didn't edit it too much. He wanted to pull the custodian of records and documents up to the forefront, but no, he did some, but not a ton.
Okay. Is there anything we're missing that people were expecting to see as changes in this round of the bylaws? No? All right. Do
Hey,
you need
Frank.
any formal? Yeah.
Frank, can I just jump back to there was one, if you scroll back up to the section on president again, there was one note, it's not highlighted in yellow, but it's under section 8C, serve as the principal spokesperson and public representative of the partnership. Would that be in lieu of the ability of the executive director to do that? Because I have to be honest with you, I don't know from an optics standpoint as an employee of the university how that would be viewed, especially as we head through the strategic planning process, and is the potential for initiatives that we may be looking to move forward that may or may not be fully supported by members of the community. I just want to have a little sensitivity to what the true perception of my role would be. And again, it's more of a me specific thing than it would be sort of the role of the president. But I figured this group, as I read that, I just said, oof, I don't know that we would want me to be the person in that.
Highlight that line.
What's that?
Frank, whoever's controlling the screen, could we highlight that specific line? Oh, there we go. There it is.
You see where I'm coming from, Sean?
I do. Yep. How about if it says serves as a
Yeah.
instead of the?
Yep.
And maybe not even principal.
Or say may serve.
Yep.
as A.
May serve as, yeah, I like that. I like that better if everybody's okay with that.
May serve as a spokesperson and public representative of the partnership.
Yep, perfect.
I like that change in words.
And
Am I
as you-
getting it right?
Right, yeah. And as you all know, it's not because I don't like to talk. It's just because I think I know I shouldn't be. I think I'm smart enough to know that. So
I think that makes a lot of sense written now.
I think it's hard on Zoom, but I believe I heard a consensus here on that change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just being
Okay.
part of the consensus.
Thank you, Betsy. Do you need anything else? That was a very good catch. I see where you're coming from. Cynthia, what do you need?
Sorry about that.
No,
I
that's
was trying to
okay.
do something and it didn't work.
I feel like I'm watching TV right now. I'm watching
Sorry.
games. This is a recommendation to the board. Do you need us to take any action at this time?
I think it would be good to have we
Yeah,
don't
just
have to formally, the board does have to approve them, and then if they're, what's the word, Steve? The board amends it, ratified by the full membership.
Yeah.
So I think a recommendation with a vote would be good to send to the board.
Sure. All right. Well, then I'll seek a motion.
I move that the governance committee recommend to the board of directors that the changes in the bylaws as enumerated here be approved by or ratified by the board of directors for consideration by the membership.
I would second that.
Second by Betsy.
It's also
All in
good, I
favor?
think, Frank, that we have it on record so that 10 years from now, when someone goes to look at it, you know.
Yeah, these are important. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Sean, you're off my screen. Oh.
That was an aye.
Got it. No, I think that's good. Thank you very much. I think that was a good discussion and good catch. Back to our agenda. Number 5, we have discussion of new members, including the student representatives. So this is, as I recall, sort of dusting myself off here about the annual meeting. So the governance committee brings a report to the membership for voting on members, and we have, and I believe we had one who was a recurring one, and I think Kyle, you reached out to Emily about her continued interest in serving on the board. So thank you for
Yes. Yep.
reaching out. We still have, from, as you recall from our minutes from last meeting, Amanda's vacancy, and we decided that we were not going to try to fill that in the interim, that we were just going to move forward and focus on recruitment. As part of the process, I think on the in our discussion last time, Sean, you had pulled somebody for Louis Goffinet and had advanced that nomination. Did everybody see that in the packet?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Is there any other suggestions at this time? Yes, Diana?
I have talked to Lauren Rodriguez at school. We're really, with this, everything happening, we're readjusting all our PTOs. So I'm waiting. We've got a few names, but we want to wait and see who takes on roles at the level, the higher levels in school before we move forward with some of the names. So I do have a few names, but Lauren and I will probably by next month kind of know which names we'll want to bring forward.
Okay, we do have some time, so this was good to have this one in, and I know the other one that was put forward was Tony had nominated Ron Shern, who's a resident in Willowbrook. But we have, we counted up, we have 3 positions potential.
Four.
and
We have
Amanda's
4.
replacement plus 3 is to give us a little, right, so we have a little bit of a bumper here. And now we're going to be going into the review of student applications. So did that go out right after spring break? And what's the deadline on that again? For
The
students to get
deadline
through?
is April 7th. We have 3 applications thus far. And I did update Prabhas. All 3 of them are juniors. So I think we,
Okay.
so I don't, Prabhas, if you've heard from anybody that's interested or,
I have 3 academic advisors that work with some freshmen that I'm going to be emailing tonight the kind of blurb and emphasizing the younger students that we would want to apply. So I'm going to be sending out kind of a follow-up today and tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get some younger students applying in.
Okay. And the idea is that we would hold interviews, that's the April 25th is our meeting.
yes.
Yeah, and so that would still be in time. So we still have when's the deadline then for, or can you, I'm just thinking about the at-large members. Can they go right up to the actual meeting day, or do they have to be done
No.
in advance?
Well, I mean, technically they could if somebody wanted to, we always give the opportunity for someone to nominate someone on the floor, but traditionally we send out the packet like 3 weeks before June 1st with the nominees in there with their bios.
Diana, I just want to make sure you're aware of that timeline too, as we think about some of, if Lauren has some recommendations she wants to move forward. Great. One of the questions that I have outstanding then with the student interviews is whether we want to start moving to in-person. And this is generally for our committee. I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to do one last one by Zoom at least, but wanted to check in on, take the temperature here about people's feeling about doing interviews and having our meeting in person. Cynthia, we had talked sort of offline, it's like, could we use a little bit larger space? I don't know if we could use the space downstairs in Nash Zimmer just to be able to give some distancing between us instead of the small room. If that was an option, if that made a difference, and if we could have committee members call in without having the same procedures of recording and stuff. Were you able to follow up with that?
Yeah, so between myself and Caitlin Epling with the library, we have control over that space, so it's already reserved. So we can definitely go in the Nash Zimmer downstairs.
Yep, good. Diana, did you have something?
Nope. I think
Oh,
that's
okay.
plenty there.
Any thoughts? How are people feeling at this point for in-person meetings? Betsy?
I'm still a little hesitant, but if COVID stays where it is and doesn't jump again, then I'd probably be okay with it.
Okay. Kyle?
Honestly, I find the Zoom meetings so much more efficient. Only because especially these meetings, I mean, 4 o'clock is, I don't finish my day here till 5:30, 5:45. 4 o'clock is, 4 o'clock means I got to finish up any meetings by 3:30 and then get to wherever we're getting to meet. I definitely see the benefit in in-person meetings. I just think if we know we've got a clean, rather regular agenda of items to run through pretty quickly, that the Zoom meetings can be pretty efficient and let people just jump into them and then jump back out of them and into the rest of their day. You know, so maybe there's a space for us to think about, you know, integrating in-person meetings, but maybe from an efficiency standpoint, having the ability to still be a Zoom meeting if we're able, you know, if at some point, you know, we're no longer permitted to do these meetings virtually, I understand, but I do think, boy, oh boy, our calendars probably have a lot more on them, but we're pretty darn efficient because you can jump from one to the next and, you know, not have to get in the car.
Diana, then Cynthia.
I agree with Kyle. I've said that for quite a while. You know, like Louis, if he's coming on, you know, our school day doesn't end until 3:45 at the elementary school, and he does some work with us sometimes. And, you know, it's a big difference to, you know, you can just pop on at school on the Zoom or whatever. So, you know, it's quite often, it's definitely a rush for most people, I think, work-wise. With that being said, I do see things like interviews are nice to have some people in person I don't know, sometimes it's nice to see the person in person and get a, you know, more of a time to have a little, you know, chat or talk, you know, so that I could see being one of those times that we may want to adjust, but I do agree the Zoom is definitely much more efficient and easier. Like I came in a minute before time from work. So if I was driving somewhere, it wouldn't have been the same.
Cynthia?
I know Sean had his hand up before me, so.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
So just to remind everybody, like what we're allowed to do and not allowed to do. So I think the governor still through April is letting virtual and hybrid meetings. There's the sense that he'll probably change it and let you do hybrid, but so for all of our meetings that we do like this, they still will have to be recorded because this is a public meeting. So it's just a reminder that all these meetings will be recorded. Once we go into, if we meet in person, they do not have to be recorded because you're giving people that public option or public meeting option to see what's happening.
Sean?
What's the subscriber count on the YouTube channel for the recording, Cynthia? Are we generating revenue on that, or is that?
Oh,
Are you counting Denise watching all of our meetings?
I mean, Denise is our
It's
biggest
not high.
fan.
No, I hear you. I just
Denise.
wanted
Hi,
to get
Denise.
the info out there. She watches it later. She's not watching it right now.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone said. I just offer for myself, 4 o'clock's tough either way, because like Kyle, we're still grinding away, trying to finish out the workday. So driving somewhere on top of that just has a domino effect. And I'd volunteer that even when orders are lifted or relaxed in some way, I'd ask that we consider this as a permanent vehicle to do the work of committees and maybe use our board meetings as the in-person opportunities for the efficiency noted.
Excellent. Diana, did you have a follow-up?
I just had a question. So if it's hybrid, that means there is an option for a public person. They'd be able to come to wherever that location was, even if people were still coming in. So we wouldn't have to record then, right? If they still had the option that they could get there. How's that work?
Right. Yeah, and we just have to, I think I told Kyle this and maybe Frank, we just have to think about if we're going to do that, you know, setting it up in our conference room. So if we set it up on a laptop, can everybody see everybody? Do we need to buy a TV screen? Do we have the budget for that? It's just things like that that the town hall has invested their money and time into, and we need to decide whether we're going to do that probably sooner rather than later. So I don't know how much they cost. I don't know how much those big TVs cost. I don't know if we could punt and try to get people around a laptop, it's a little more involved.
Great.
But we have the call-in option too, that I think we could do. Like I could be here in the conference room and people could call in. I think we could do both at the same time. We just have to figure it out. That's all. It's doable.
Okay. So regardless, we're going to be recording and we're going to be doing something online. So that either by phone or by Zoom. And like what I'm hearing is that the committee meetings would be helpful to continue to do on Zoom when we can, but there may be special meetings where we do in person. So in the next one where we have student interviews, what's the thought there? What would people prefer? Can you do an interview by phone successfully? Or we can do it as a hybrid. Do we want to try to do it as I hate to do it first time out of the gate with people coming in for interviews, right?
Please don't. No.
We don't, yeah, right. So
No, I'd
I
say
think we
either
have,
or.
I think for this
Yeah, I
time,
don't want to
it's-
test it with these poor students and
Yeah.
make a fool out of myself.
my sense, and I'm just as chair just going to put a 2 cents in here. The students I interact with, not many, but they're very comfortable on Zoom, and don't see it's a problem to invite them in to our Zoom if we continue to hold the interviews by Zoom. I think it's more of a loss for us. You don't have those little interchanges when somebody enters a room or when they're leaving, or you're with the Denise sees, when she meets them at the door kind of thing. I'll miss that, because those are some important things when you're interviewing. You getting a sense of the chemistry. It's harder to get chemistry through Zoom. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. What did people think about specifically for our next round, where we will have students coming in for interviews? Anybody object to if we just conducted it all by Zoom? Any objections to that? No? Hearing none.
I don't object, but I agree with your points and Diana's. But that's just me. I mean, I think you do get to the chemistry a little better in person, but that's.
Well, you don't have any interaction with them ahead of time, do you? They're not going to be coming in to
No.
drop off materials or anything. It's just, I
no.
think we're just going to have to go. We're just going to have to go with it. I don't think we have much of an option. All right. Then my understanding here is that as a committee, we're going to continue our Zoom meetings and maybe eventually go to a hybrid format, but maybe between now and the next time we meet, we'll explore a little bit more about what that hybrid function looks like, and see if we can make that work. All right, Cynthia. And we'll schedule the interviews through Zoom, and just are you and make sure that we can manage that link too, to be able to add people in, drop them. I think it's actually, even those will be more efficient too. So, all right.
Frank, I'm sorry. Sean, is your hand up from last time? Just to checking. Can I just mention a possible board member that I might think?
Yep.
Sarah Dufresne. I just wanted to put that out there. I think a lot of you know Sarah. She works in youth services, very involved with the festival and the movies. Young family, lives in town.
And she's been very active in the movies, right?
Mhm.
In the past.
Yes.
Yeah,
in
I'll
the
second,
festival.
I'll second that. She has been awesome on the festival group, and just generally speaking, she's not a wallflower. So that's good. We need people in these meetings that will speak. So I'd be fully supportive of that. Let me know, Cynthia, if we need to twist her arm at all. We could double her salary from the normal board member salary if that's enticing to her.
It sounds like that's the go-ahead to broach the subject with her.
Yeah, I remember her from when I was mayor and when I served on the board, and she really is a very good person. And when she commits to something, she is very involved and enthusiastically so, which isn't always the case, as you well know, Cynthia. So I think she'd be a good person to look at.
That's excellent. Steve?
I have a few questions regarding the people that have been mentioned. Is the fact that we've received a nominator candidate profile for Lewis an indication that he'll say yes if he is nominated?
I can speak to that if you'd like,
Yes.
Thea or Frank.
Sean, that'd be great.
So before I met with them before the form was filled out. We actually went through the form together after he expressed some initial interest. I met with him at the community center on a Sunday, and he also understands that he's interviewing us and we're interviewing him, and that it's not a given that he'll be invited onto the board, but he was willing to take the next step.
Okay. And I have a question for Prabhas. Are there any student representative candidates who stand out in your mind, Prabhas?
I haven't seen the list of applicants
Okay.
yet, but
Okay.
I hope in a week or so I'll be able to answer that question well.
And my last question is, would Ron Shuren be a town council representative?
No, I don't believe so. That was an additional one for the one of the at-large positions.
Okay. For what it's worth, my 2 cents, I think both Lewis and Ron would be very good board members.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. Anything else to add to the discussion about board membership? And Cynthia, you have what you need?
Yes.
Update on discussion of officers for the upcoming year, item number 6. I think I've spoken to each of the board members, officers, including Kyle, Sean, and Tony, and myself, and all have agreed to continue on for the upcoming year. Item 7, prepare an annual for the annual meeting. And Cynthia, you're looking for guidance on location, speaker, etc.
Yes, please. Especially the location, because, that kind of thing you want to get on people's calendars, whether it's, last year we kind of went back and forth on indoor, outdoor, decided on the Greek Center. So yeah, I'd like to be able to nail that down today from the committee if we could.
We have this conversation annually. And we always think about, oh, is there another space? But we have had, at least the ones that I've attended have been at the Greek Center. Is there any alternative? Is there any thoughts about others? Betsy, were you coming off?
When is the annual meeting?
June 1st.
June 1st?
Yes.
Okay. So at that point, the only thing we'd have to worry about would be rain. Okay.
So I know I don't know, remember who said, somebody mentioned, obviously we have the Greek Center. I think somebody had mentioned the council chambers. You know, we had looked at the park last year. I don't think that the rooms at Graduate Stores are big enough unless we were in the ballroom, and I don't know whether they would charge us.
Do we have any members of the partnership that have adequate space?
Are you looking at members of the university as well?
Anyone who's a member of the partnership that have event space. I'd first look to private businesses before a university venue.
You've got to look at private, whether the indoor space is adequate, but also whether the parking is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
might be
none of
able
our
to sit-
downtown businesses really have large enough space. I
We
mean,
have- we
there's a
have
couple
mem-
of available spaces we could go into, but they may not be in the best shape, so I wouldn't recommend.
We have membership outside of downtown stores footprint. or
We do,
boundary?
we don't, you know, we have like the Adventure Park. I'm trying to do this, Sean, off to the top of my head. We have Thompson's.
Mhm.
We have Stores Congregational Church. I'm just trying to, I'd have to look it up, which I can do if you'd like me to.
Not, maybe not right now, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it's one way that we can have interaction with our partnership membership, and also more awareness raised by each of ourselves when we get out there and be inside their spaces and interact with its owners and understand their businesses. It seems like it would be a win-win approach to further our cause and maybe theirs in turn. I just don't know. I mean, I was immediately thinking of, Kyle's gonna laugh, and Cynthia might laugh too, because I'm gonna sound like a Hops 44 ambassador, but I know that she's now a member of the Economic Development Commission, if that's the right name. I don't know if she's an active member of the partnership, but she should be. And they do have ample space and parking, just
What were you talking about?
Hops 44, it's known as now, behind Toast.
It's the
Oh.
old- Yeah, that old Zennies.
Yeah, okay.
I was thinking the same space. They have that whole side room that's really, you know, it's a great gathering area, and it's large. And then it's business for them afterwards.
Mhm.
And there might be others like them on our membership rolls. I just don't know.
So I just went and looked at our membership. So the only other two possibilities would be, that's tight in there, the Ballard, the shared space with Ballard and Barnes and Noble. You know, we've had different events there, smaller events. And then Maharaja is a member.
Is the Hellenic Society a member?
Yes,
And aren't they opening and dedicating their amphitheater? This, I think, before June. Or
I am not
sometime
up to
this year.
speed on what's going on over there, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
That would be news, Sean.
Oh, let me look it up, as I did get
Yeah.
a notice about that.
But yeah, I mean, Nancy, you know, Hops 44 definitely has the space. I mean, you could convince her to be a member, then we'd be all set.
I'll certainly do the latter, and I'll shame her into doing it because she should be a member. Because I mean,
I mean,
let's
nobody's
face it.
approached her, so it's not as if she's been approached and turned it down. I think that's part of what,
Okay.
you know, Frank and Kyle and
Can we
Tony are gonna
approach
start
that?
working on.
Yeah, in general, can we take a first go at that one, that location then?
Yeah, I like that.
And then, you know, we can, it'd be good to move it around a little bit, especially among someone we're trying to entice to get more involved in the partnership.
I'm thinking that if we do something in that area, we might be able to work in a presentation on the status of the Four Corners redevelopment projects as a whole, because I mean, I think we learned during the strategic plan, that might be the future of this partnership, is expanding to that part of town and other areas of town.
Well,
The
the
Hellenic,
next,
I'm sorry,
Mhm.
Frank, the
no,
Hellenic,
go ahead.
I found the email, and I'm sorry, they're actually planning for a soft opening in September.
Great. To that point, Sean, the other item that Cynthia was looking for was a speaker. Is there any thoughts about speakers? And you're suggesting a good topic. I don't know if it's a speaker topic or if it's just something that we should cover as part of the meeting, but does it prompt anybody for thinking
Yes.
about who would have as a speaker? Betsy?
Whatever it is, make it upbeat. That, we're dealing with so much today between the Ukraine, between COVID, between all this other stuff. But make it something that isn't going to be too controversial and is kind of upbeat. Will make people feel good rather than feel angry. Thank you.
I was going to suggest, even if you strike out on the location, Sean, wearing my Yukon hat for a second, I think that especially around that time of year, if we needed to, we could get space in the football building and the football coach would speak. He's a really nice guy and he's really trying hard to, and they've been hosting all of their recruiting weekends at the Graduate Hotel. They've been really trying to be around and about, and he's living in the up in the president's house there right on the edge of campus. So he's and he's still undefeated and he still will be on June 1st. So it'll be I think again, just throwing it out there as an option. And again, I don't think he wouldn't speak for 35 minutes. He'd give us the 10-minute football coach, everybody be ready to, to go running out into the downtown and start, raising money and building additions to Betsy Patterson Square. So I think he would be a good option, I think, for us. And certainly I think the folks in athletics would be happy for the little bit of synergy and the opportunity for him to sort of do his thing. So again, I think we can keep that one on our, at the ready. If not, but again, as a speaker, I think he certainly would pop down to Hops 44 and give us 10-15 minutes and just talk about his impressions, because I think that's something that we've talked about a lot in these meetings. My impression of downtown stores versus what Betsy's might be, or Cynthia's might be, or Steve's might be, or Jim Mora's might be, I think it's really important for us to hear different perspectives about what people think of the downtown, and to have the brand new football coach who was the football coach for the Atlanta Falcons and the Seattle Seahawks tell us what he thinks about downtown and how important it is and how important it is to the university. I think there's an element I think that would make sense. And again, he'd be upbeat, I promise you.
That's also
Yeah.
one of the things that would unite townspeople and university people, because a lot of things are controversial, but when it comes to sports, whether it's the game we're going to watch in a couple hours or football,
Yep.
town people get behind that part of the university. So that's a pretty good idea to explore, I think.
Her boss?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And is there a plan to do an update on like the strategic plan during this annual meeting? I'd imagine there would be, because there's a nice way to package this event as like forward and future thinking, and that's the theme. And I think that would be an exciting way to get all of our stakeholders interested in, like, all right, what's next for the downtown, and next for our football team, what's next for the strategic plan, and really have this like forward, what's next in the future annual meeting.
Yeah, I agree. And even better if the football coach can give that presentation, Kyle. He'll technically be 1-1 at that point, by the way. The blue-white game.
No, we're just gonna stretch a little bit that night.
Okay. I do agree with Prabhas that
Yeah.
actually should have been the first thing we thought about, but that's going to be a dry topic. It could be exciting, but it might be dry in comparison to football coach talking.
Well, it could be part of Kyle's remarks, or if it's the football coach,
Right.
it's not like a huge presentation, but I like the way Prabhas put it in context with, moving forward. And so it doesn't have to be like, here's 20 slides on the strategic plan. It could just be
Oh,
a
no,
little
no.
higher level, so to
Yeah,
speak, I guess.
yeah,
We
we're,
could just,
yeah.
oh, go ahead, Kyle.
No, I was gonna say, we're gonna rip through that puppy, so don't, I mean, it's like, we're gonna, I think by that point, hopefully, we will have, there'll be a little more meat on the bone to discuss in terms of how the working groups, how the working group activity is starting to move. I think certainly my hope would be that there would be a little more substance to share from some of our engagements with the property owners. We'll hopefully have perhaps even some vacancies that we can talk about filling or that we can talk in firm terms about who is going to be filling them, rather than just the idea that we've got some leads. So, hopefully between now and June 1st, the strategic plan will be a little bit more, a little less of a plan and a little more action.
And we have those on the matrix, we have those 5 or 6 categories, and we have working groups, and it would be nice if we could, and I can help out as well, make like if we want to do slides, a very simple presentation that highlights the category, the high level goal, progress, and then maybe the members' headshots that are working on these committees. And that will be a very digestible way for anyone that's interested in the strategic plan to very, very simplified, very high level. And then like you said, Kyle, what has been done and who is working on it. I think that will get people really excited. And that could only be 5 or 6 slides, only a 10-minute presentation, but really get some energy.
Mhm.
I think we need more Prabhas's on our committee. I've always felt that.
We keep
No.
saying, we keep, for some reason, Frank and Cynthia keep saying his term's up, and I keep saying, I think your math is screwed up, and that Prabhas is still going to be on the board for at least 5 more years. I checked with the registrar. I didn't see anything in there about graduation.
Was that you that
No,
moved
but-
my graduation deadline half a decade?
I don't know. I don't know. Prabhas, I checked your credit load earlier today. It was not close. I'm sorry to say it, but I don't know what happened.
Thank you for breaking the news. Thank you.
However, I do have to say that maybe the hybrid, as we're coming out of this and we're adapting to new technologies, I'm just saying that there's going to be opportunities for volunteers to get involved and stay involved. So I'm not going to propose it here, but
From their fancy new job in Boston,
wherever they may
ends
be.
up, we're gonna.
Actually, it will be Boston. That was a spot on.
Ah, that's
I
great.
had a last minute update 2 weeks ago, which I will share very shortly. But if it is hybrid, I'll find ways to stay involved. Is my way of saying this.
And I really like the way this committee works. And one person will throw out an idea, and another will capitalize on it and push it a little bit further. Betsy, thinking about something positive, and the kind of thing of the football, can't think of a better, boost. And really, it comes back to the all the work that's been done on the strategic plan, and sort of presenting that is showing that volunteers have opportunities here to really move some things, and that this is a great time to be involved, and really pump up the people who have been contributing time and energy to the partnership, and showing them ways in which they can get more involved. So it seems like it's shaping up to be a great meeting. Cynthia, there was also the volunteer of the year listed here on the agenda. Were you thinking, was that Sarah?
Yeah, so I don't know if that makes sense. We've never had it. I don't know if that's awkward, if she is, up there for election. We've always had, if board members are volunteer of the year, it's either before or after, it's not while they're on the board. So outside of that, I haven't, we sort of had a hybrid event season last year. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. But if people want to think about that, we have a little more time on that one.
Okay. I don't see a problem. Diana? Did you-
Well, and I think that's, I mean, it's a great idea because she's been involved for, quite a while. It's not even just this year. I mean, she's, we've seen her around and she's so dynamic, but it makes us look good because then it's like we realize we're giving her the Volunteer of the Year for last year award, and then we've been smart enough to recruit her on our board. It's
True.
good.
I think it's consistent. All right. I think you have what you need, Cynthia. If there's any follow-up that any one of us needs to do, just let us know on location or speaker or volunteer.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. So if I could clarify, so Sean, you're going to talk to Nancy. I kind of missed this because I was looking for the business
Yeah,
members.
Yeah, I'll speak with her.
Are you thinking that side room, like where Chris and I were sitting, when I saw you, can
Yep,
she close things off or?
yep. There's barn doors on that space.
Oh, there are. Okay.
You can still have access to the restrooms from that side, but you can close off the rest of the restaurant.
Okay. And then Kyle, were you at this point going to approach athletics or?
Absolutely. I can,
Okay.
if everybody thought that was acceptable, I'm happy to reach out.
You
So
think that's right, John?
that's June 1st, you said?
Yes,
Okay,
at
got it.
6 o'clock.
Yep, perfect.
All right. Kyle, I know you have a hard stop at 5.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right. I think we covered the discussion about the in-person or hybrid meeting, so that was the only other piece. And then I was just going to ask Sean if there's any update on the strategic, or Cynthia, if there's any update on the strategic plan that we haven't heard already.
You want to talk about the working group, Cynthia?
Sure. So Sean and Kyle and Frank and I met to kind of devise a plan for the working group. So starting with this, sort of focusing on the 3. So sustainable funding, Frank and Kyle and Tony Moran are going to work on that somewhat offline. So the 3 of them we're not going to sort of meet as a group with me as staff there. They're going to keep working on that piece. Sean has the lead on promotion/public spaces. And so we're working on setting up a meeting either this week or next week to get that working group meeting. And then Kyle's going to follow up with a potential chair for the business property owner engagement, somebody from our board. And I think for the board meeting, I'll probably outline a little more detail on kind of what the expectations are. As you all may recall, the goal is to kind of start with a core group and then bring different people in as we get to different tasks and topics. We'll bring in the property owners maybe needed on something with respect to public spaces. The Heart Realty Group is very interested in putting resources toward Betsy Patterson Square and other areas. So we bring them in at some point. So hopefully we'll have this kickoff meeting for both of them shortly. So to Sean's point, in terms of, by the annual meeting, we'll have met at least once. I think that was it. I don't know, Frank or Sean, if I forgot anything.
Only that I think you're waiting on me on our next touch point with Larissa, right?
Yeah, that was the other thing. Yeah, so Sean I spoke with Larissa about their role because, as you may recall, she's supposed to come back in 3 months and then 6 months. So she and I had an initial conversation and we wanted Sean to be involved in what is the timing on that? Because I think we want the working groups to have started to meet and do some work before she comes in. And kind of what are our expectations for her? So we're trying to schedule that in the next couple of weeks. And there are some staff-driven pieces too. So the signage is kind of, I have the lead on that. Kathleen has the lead on the itineraries, and Denise has the lead on storefront enhancement. There's a second one for Denise, but I can't remember what it is. So yeah, so it's coming together. So we'll start meeting and I think make some good progress over the next couple of months.
Terrific. For boss. Well, Sean, was there anything else from your standpoint on that?
Yeah, nothing that I'm aware of. No. Nope.
Thanks for being on top of that. I just wanted to turn to Prabhas. Just one, thank you again for pushing and promoting within the student community for getting new potential board members. That's great. And I also want to learn more about when the time is right about your position. Congratulations. If this is going to be a big transition.
Thank you. I'll have more to share in the coming weeks. So it was very all over the place, but it worked out, and I'll be sharing very shortly.
That's great.
Boss, how old were you when you first started getting involved with the partnership?
That's a good question. I think I volunteered at the festival. I was 15. I know that it was asked in my interview, and I had mentioned that. I do remember that. But I think I was 15 or 16. I was standing right next to the trash, and anytime someone put something in the recycling, reach in, grab it, and
I
put it in the
remember
trash.
that.
So humble origins.
Thank you.
That's great. Well, thank you, everyone. I think our time has come to a conclusion here. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Go Huskies. I move to adjourn.
Adjourn. Second. For boss, all in favor. Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night.
Have a good
Good
night.
night, all.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.